If you've ever been called too much for loving too loudly, hit subscribe, because I learned the hard way what happens when an alpha doesn't want his Luna. I'm Calla Rivers, 26, the cheerful fixer of the Silver Pine Pack. I throw parties for peace treaties, stop warriors from clawing each other, and organize bake sales that end with drunken omegas confessing crushes. Basically, I keep chaos cute, and I thought marrying an alpha meant safety, partnership, maybe even a little passion under the moonlight. Instead, I got silence. 6 weeks married, 6 weeks of polite smiles, separate rooms, and a bed that smells like heartbreak and expensive soap. Our mating mark? Unsealed. Our marriage? Unspoken. Our bond? Unwanted. The whispers started early. He's in love with a human. I didn't want to believe it until I caught him sneaking out under the blood moon. So I didn't cry. I made a list. 10 ways to survive a loveless mating. Number 1, find my own fun. Cue dark laugh over low instrumental swell. He said he needed space. I gave him silence and redecorated his den in pink. Chapter 1. The moon hid behind clouds on the night of our wedding, a classic omen, according to every gossiping elder in attendance. My grandmother even whispered it while adjusting my veil. Clouds mean secrets, Calla. Secrets mean sorrow. I told her I didn't believe in omens. But that was before I met Darius Vale, the brooding alpha who could turn silence into a full-time career. The marriage was political, of course. Silverpine and Nightfall packs had been circling each other like wary wolves for years, and my union with their alpha was supposed to end generations of hostility. Translation: marry the scary man so no one gets eaten. It wasn't that I disliked him. How could I? He was carved from every Luna's daydream. Tall, scarred, voice like gravel in moonlight. But I swear his eyes were made of winter. You could wrap yourself in fur and still shiver under his stare. He didn't flirt, didn't smile, didn't even look impressed when I tried to break the tension with a joke during the vow exchange. You know, I whispered, most couples kiss after this part. His mouth twitched. We're not most couples. No kidding. When the officiant announced us bonded, the crowd howled in celebration. But I felt nothing. No spark. No hum. Just the heavy weight of expectation pressing down on my chest. Later that night in our shared room, I waited for something, anything, to happen. He stood near the window, the moonlight slicing his silhouette into silver and shadow. You don't have to pretend, Calla, he said quietly. Pretend what? That this is what you wanted. I laughed, because what else do you do when your brand new husband kills the mood before you even sit on the bed? Well, I did kind of hope for at least a dinner first. His jaw flexed. This marriage is about peace, not passion. I won't take what fate hasn't chosen. That stung more than it should have. I wasn't expecting poetry, but I didn't expect rejection either. I turned away, hiding the tremor in my voice. Right. Wouldn't want to force destiny. She's very sensitive. He left before dawn. Didn't come back for 2 days. By the end of week 2, I'd learned to manage the silence. I filled the house with life, visiting pack members, laughter, and the smell of honey-roasted coffee beans. The Omegas adored me because I made them feel seen. The Betas trusted me because I remembered their names. I was the Luna of Silverpine, and I would be useful even if I wasn't loved. But every night I heard him in the West Wing, his footsteps heavy, his heartbeat distant. Once I thought I caught a trace of perfume on his jacket. Human, sharp, synthetic. Not pack. When I asked about it, he didn't even look up from his paperwork. She needed help. It was nothing. She who? Silence. Always silence. I smiled through my teeth. Next time, tell nothing that her scent is very floral. Might cause allergies. He said nothing again, so I took a long sip of wine and decided that if he wanted distance, I'd give him a universe. A few weeks later, during the council dinner, my wolf stirred for the first time since the wedding. A low, restless growl under my skin, like she was pacing in circles, frustrated. Darius had entered the room in his usual storm cloud aura. The warriors bowed, the elders smiled, and I did what I always did, played the perfect Luna. I laughed too easily, complimented too often, made everyone comfortable. Except him. He kept glancing at me, expression unreadable, eyes a shade darker than the room could handle. When he stood to speak, the whole table went silent. His voice was rough, steady. The Nightfall and Silverpine packs will host joint patrols this season. The Luna will oversee the cooperation logistics. I blinked. That was the first time he'd mentioned me publicly as Luna. Small victory, but still. After the meeting, I followed him out to the terrace. "You gave me responsibility tonight." He didn't stop walking. "You earned it." I caught his sleeve, forcing him to face me. That sounded almost like a compliment. Should I frame it? The faintest smirk tugged at his mouth. "Do whatever you like, Calla." He said my name like it hurt, like it was too intimate for him to use, and God's help me, I liked that it hurt. That night, I sat on the edge of my empty bed and stared at the wall between us. I knew he was awake on the other side. I could feel his energy humming through the mark that wasn't sealed. It was faint, unsteady, like a heartbeat behind glass. There was something wrong with this bond. I wasn't naive. Omegas and alphas were supposed to feel each other, dreams, moods, even pain. But me? I felt only fragments, ghost sensations, fading faster each day. Maybe it was him, maybe it was me, maybe fate had simply gotten lazy. So I started journaling. Dear Diary, my husband is emotionally unavailable, possibly allergic to intimacy, and might be seeing a human florist. Please advise. When sarcasm didn't help, I took to baking at midnight. Muffins, cookies, bread rolls shaped like tiny middle fingers. Anything to drown out the ache. Every time I smelled yeast, I pretended it was healing. Every time I burned something, I told myself it was closure. Still, even I couldn't laugh forever. One night when the storm rolled in, thunder rattling the windows, I caught my reflection and barely recognized her. The Luna with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. That's when the idea hit. If my alpha wouldn't claim me, I'd claim myself. So I tore a page from my notebook and wrote across the top in bold ink, 10 ways to survive a loveless mating. Number 1, stop waiting for him to touch you. And as lightning cracked across the sky, I added number 2, buy new sheets that don't smell like rejection. Chapter 2. I didn't mean to become the Luna who stress shops, but the morning after I wrote my list, I woke up with a deep need for 2 things. Coffee and chaos control. The coffee I had. The control? That required flowers, big ones, rude ones. The kind that scream, life happens even when love doesn't. So I went to Marla's Petals and Pine, the little shop at the edge of Humantown where the bell over the door sounds like a fairy with anxiety, and the air is a sweet punch to the face. Marla wears glitter like armor and has a 6th sense for trouble. Also a 7th for gossip. "Luna Calla," she sang when she saw me. "You're glowing like a girl with a secret or a girl who hasn't slept." "Both," I said, leaning on the counter. "I need arrangements for the training yard, the infirmary, the council room, and my questionable life choices." She brightened. "So, peonies, foxglove, and whatever screams I am thriving out of spite?" "Exactly," I said. "Make it look like a floral coup." She was halfway through a ribbon flourish when she paused, nostrils flaring. Shifter noses are a blessing and a curse. "You smell like storm," she murmured. "Did he come home last night?" I busied myself with a display of succulents because they were small and had good boundaries. "He existed in the general vicinity, if that's what you mean." Marla slid a box across the counter. "Take these." Inside, 12 blush pink taper candles, 2 packs of heart confetti. Subtle, absolutely not. And a sachet of moonflower tea. I peered up. "Is this a survival kit or a threat?" "Both," she chirped. "Also, you didn't hear this from me, but your alpha's been sighted in town after midnight, 3 times this moon." The air thinned in my lungs, then rushed back in sharp. Doing what? Buying lilies. Staring into that parking lot abyss like it owes him rent. And once, she lowered her voice, escorting a human woman to the clinic. My wolf bristled, not with rage but with focus, like she'd finally found a scent worth following. Human, I repeated, tasting the word, bitter. Dark hair? Almost black, Marla said, eyes keen. Delicate wrists, smelled like city air and cheap motel soap. She winced. Sorry. I grinned because wolves bear pain better when it's in a joke costume. Don't be. I prefer my heartbreak with brand identification. Marla's hand brushed mine. You okay? No, I said honestly, but I'm charming about it. She nodded like that was an acceptable medical condition. Then you need flowers that say unbothered. Also petty, hydrangeas the size of egos. Perfect, I said. Bill it to the Alpha's house account. Marla sucked in a breath. Petty and political. My favorite flavor. While she arranged, I wandered the shop. A scrap of receipt paper peeked from under the register. Grease pencil scrawl, not Marla's neat loop. I recognized Darius's handwriting because I've studied it like scripture in forgotten ledgers and unsigned notes. Meet after last patrol. Bring the rest was smudged, but one word survived at the bottom. Meadowview, the clinic. My stomach did a slow, traitorous tilt. Marla didn't see me pocket the scrap. It wasn't elegant, but neither is survival. I told myself I was collecting evidence for my eventual memoir. The UNSEALED Luna, a love story with footnotes and snacks. On the way out, Marla pressed a tiny glass vial into my palm. Inside, shards of dried moonflower petals shimmered like frost. Steep it, she said. Sip while you write whatever list you're clearly writing. Am I that obvious? Baby, you came in here with the energy of a woman who alphabetized her pain. She winked. Go alphabetize beautifully. Back at the pack house, I did what I do best. Turned heartbreak into a to-do list party. I propped my notebook on the kitchen island, slid a plate of cinnamon knots between me and the ache, and wrote, 10 ways to survive a loveless mating. Work in progress. 1. Stop waiting for him to touch you. 2. New sheets that don't smell like rejection, linen, oat. 3. Befriend the beta, platonically, legally for the ancestors. 4. Hobbies that require fire or knives, controlled. 5. Redecorate like the petty queen you are. 6. Pink, everywhere, target, his den. 7. Host Luna dinners, loud, joyful, invite every warrior who laughs at your jokes. 8. Dance in the training yard at midnight, make the moon jealous. 9. Stop rehearsing apologies for existing. 10. If he won't meet you halfway, learn to love the half that's all you. I added a bonus item and underlined it twice. 11. Find your own fun. Fun started with interior warfare. By midday, delivery trucks arrived in trembling succession. Rugs soft as secrets, pillows in shades of blush that would make a stoic alpha question his gods, fairy light curtains, and a velvet chaise that screamed, "Read poetry on me," while ignoring his texts. I carried everything toward the West Wing and tried not to think about the clinic's name burning my pocket. Luna? A warrior asked carefully as I swept past with an armful of throw pillows. Yes, Thatch. He eyed the avalanche of pink. Is this for an event? I said. A funeral. For whom? Subtlety. He nodded like that tracked. Bless him. The den was a cathedral to restraint. Dark wood, iron shelves, a map wall tattooed with old battle lines. I stood in the doorway, inhaled the scent of rain, pine, and stubborn man, and whispered, "Let there be light." Within 30 minutes, I had an altar of soft rebellion. Pink pillows lined the leather sofa, fairy lights draped across the map like constellations learning new shapes. Hydrangeas burst from a bronze urn on his desk, full, ridiculous, alive. The velvet chaise took the window, where morning would spill like a confession across it. I tucked the taper candles into iron sconces and imagined him lighting them against his will because ambiance is stronger than pride. A quiet thrill slid through me. Not victory, something purer. Ownership. I exist here too. I left one artifact where he'd see it last. My list, folded and tucked beneath a paperweight, visible enough to taunt, private enough to deny. Then I brewed the moonflower tea, opened the scrap-marked Meadowview, and pulled a map. If he was helping a human, I needed to know who. Not to sabotage him, to protect myself from the story I was inventing in the dark. Wolves go feral in blank spaces. Better a painful truth than a shapeless fear. I traced routes with my finger. Pack roads, human roads, the back gravel artery that fed into the clinic's lot. The last patrol ended at 11. He always checked the southern perimeter after. I circled a stand of pines overlooking town. Okay, I told the room. If I were a brooding alpha with a secret, I'd park where the cameras don't see and the guilt does. The house hummed around me. Warriors training in the yard, pups shouting, kitchens clattering, the machine of a pack. I loved it, fiercely. Loved being useful, loved being necessary. I hated that necessity tasted like crumbs when the feast I was promised sat untouched across the hall. I took my tea to the balcony and watched clouds muscle the sky into slate. When the first drop of rain hit my wrist, my wolf pressed her nose to the wind. Stay ready. As if summoned, Rowan, the beta, appeared below on the gravel path, shoulders squared against weather and whatever he'd decided to tell me today. He had that look all betas get around me, equal parts affection and self-preservation, like I might adopt them or start a revolution. Why not both? He climbed the stairs 2 at a time. You redecorated his den. Viciously, I said. Want to see the hydrangeas? They're weaponized. He scrubbed a hand down his face. Calla, it's cheerful in there, I insisted. And, wild thought, maybe if the space is less funeral, the marriage will be less funeral. He exhaled a laugh despite himself. You know, most Lunas simmer in quiet dignity. I simmered, I said. It burned. We're on to flambe. He leaned on the balcony rail, rain stippling his hair. There are rumors. I sipped. Me too. Care to trade? His mouth flattened. He's been to Meadowview. With a woman, I know. The words were clean, no wobble. Pride bloomed mean and bright in my chest. I'm not a ghost in my own home, Rowan. I can smell motel soap from a mile away. His gaze softened with something like respect or alarm. He won't tell you because he thinks silence protects you. Silence is a mold, I snapped. It grows in the cracks and eats everything. He studied me, then nodded once like coming to a decision. If you follow him tonight, take me with you. I didn't say I would. You wrote it on your face. His eyes flicked to the tea, the map, the not-quite-dry ink on my fingertips. And Luna? If you're going to break a rule, break it clean. Don't get caught halfway. I thought of my list under the paperweight like a dare. Noted. He pushed off the rail, paused. Be careful with your heart, he said quietly. It's bigger than this house. Then this house should expand, I said, chin high. Or move. Rowan's mouth curved. Gods help us all. I almost feel bad for him. Don't, I said. He has a whole den of hydrangeas for sympathy. When he left, the storm settled in earnest. The kind of heavy, honest rain that makes secrets heavier and honesty feel possible. I dressed in dark jeans, boots I could run in, and a jacket that smelled like cedar and a little like rebellion. I braided my hair because nothing ruins a confrontation like your own curls slapping you in dramatic moments. I waited until the house changed rhythms, the post-dinner lull when pups were tucked, warriors ate second plates, patrols exchanged shifts. Then I ghosted through halls like a rumor, past the den, pink, glorious, offensively hopeful, and stopped at the West Wing stair where his scent gathered, pine and metal and a worry I couldn't name. I didn't have to wait long. His door opened with a careful click. Darius stepped out like he was made of shadow and intent, No patrol jacket, no formal shirt, just black, simple, lethal. He smelled like rain wants a fight. He didn't see me, of course he didn't. Alphas see threats and terrain. Lunas see people. We're glass when we need to be. He moved with quiet certainty down the service stair, through the mudroom, out into the rain. I followed at the distance you learn from years of being in rooms where you're needed but not invited. My wolf padded beside my ribs, ears high, tail low. Watch. Learn. Do not bleed until you must. He took the gravel cut that bled into the narrow road to town, head down, shoulders set. Not the stride of a man in love, I realized. The stride of a man late to something he dreads. Lightning stitched the sky. In its brief, merciless light, I saw Rowan step from the grove and fall in behind me, silent as a promise. I didn't turn, just curled 2 fingers at my thigh. Okay. He answered with one steady. We found his truck in the stand of pines where the cameras don't reach. I almost laughed. I called it. He drove with his lights off until the last second, then cut left into Meadowview's lot where a single lamp buzzed like a dying star. Through the glass doors, the clinic was a wash of sterile light. And there, sitting on a plastic chair with her hands clutched around a paper cup, was the human woman. Dark hair, thin wrists, a cardigan that had seen too many laundromats. She looked up before he stepped inside, like some thread pulled between them had tugged. Not romantic, not hungry, relieved. He sat beside her, took her hand, spoke soft enough that even I couldn't catch the shape. She smiled without showing teeth, tired, brave. And then she turned her face and I saw it, the pale crescent scar at her temple, the kind you get when silver kisses bone and someone lives anyway. My wolf went still all over, not anger, not jealousy. Recognition of a different war, Rowan whispered, barely breath. Now you know. Not yet, I said. I want the story, not the shadow. We watched the nurse call her name. We watched Darius stand like it hurt and follow. We waited until the hallway swallowed them whole. Rain slid cold down my neck. Under the storm and the hum of the clinic light, I heard my pulse, steady, stubborn mine. I pulled my notebook from my jacket, sheltered it under the awning, and added a line, ink feathering and damp. 12. Do not compete with ghosts. Learn their names. Then I closed the book, tucked it away, and squared my shoulders at the door. Calla, Rowan said softly, warning prayer both. I'm not here to break, I told him. I'm here to choose. I reached for the clinic handle, and the door swung open from the inside, slamming into my palm. Darius stood there, wet hair pushed back, eyes bright with a fear I'd never seen on him. He froze when he saw me. For the first time since the vows, something crashed through his winter. Calla, he said, my name not like it hurt, but like it mattered. What are you doing here? I smiled, small and lethal. Finding my own fun. Chapter 3. When an alpha looks afraid, the world shifts. Because fear isn't supposed to live behind eyes like his, cold, steady, unmovable. But there he was. Darius Vale, my husband, my unfinished bond, my walking contradiction, standing in the doorway of that human clinic, dripping rain and guilt in equal measure. And I? I looked like a Luna who'd lost her mind and found her backbone instead. He said my name again, softer this time. Calla, you shouldn't be here. Neither should you, I said, unless you're volunteering for night shifts in emotional masochism. His jaw clenched. It's not what you think. Fantastic, I shot back. Because what I think is that my husband sneaks out under a blood moon to visit another woman who smells like heartbreak and human shampoo. Please, enlighten me with the less insulting version. His eyes flicked to Rowan, who had the good sense to step back like he'd just remembered this was above his beta pay grade. I'll wait by the truck, Rowan muttered, vanishing into the rain. Coward. Inside, the clinic was a graveyard of flickering lights and antiseptic. The human woman sat on a cot behind a cracked curtain, coughing softly into her hands. She didn't even glance up. Darius hesitated before speaking. Her name is Ava. She's dying! My wolf went still. Dying? He nodded, the muscles in his neck tight as wire. Silver poisoning. Long term. From a raid years ago. And let me guess, she saved you once, so now you're paying penance in late-night visits and flower deliveries? His silence answered for him. Gods, Darius, I whispered. You could have just told me. I'm your Luna, not your jailer. His expression softened, barely, but enough. I didn't want to bring you into this pain. I laughed, sharp and cold. Newsflash, that ship sailed when you said I do and forgot to follow through. He flinched. Good, maybe pain should be shared. The nurse came in with a tray of vials, interrupting whatever argument was about to explode. Ava smiled faintly at him, weak but grateful. And that's when I saw it, really saw it. Not romance, remorse. He wasn't hiding a mistress. He was nursing a wound that refused to close. But that didn't mean he wasn't still bleeding me dry in the process. So I straightened, smoothing the rain from my hair, and said in my most diplomatic Luna voice, Good evening, Ava. I'm Calla Vale, apparently the wife in this tragic soap opera no one told me about. She blinked, startled. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't apologize, I said gently. You've done nothing wrong. You took a bullet for this idiot. I just married him. You clearly made the better choice. Even Darius's mouth twitched at that. We stayed there until dawn, the three of us bound by something strange and uncomfortable. Truth. When Ava fell asleep, Darius turned to me. Now you know. Yeah, I said. Now I know my husband's not cheating, just self-flagellating through guilt therapy. So romantic, Calla. No, seriously, thank you for the transparency, Alpha. I'll add it to my list of marital milestones. Right after emotionally neglected, and before unofficial nurse chaperone. His eyes softened again, a dangerous warmth threatening the distance I'd carefully built. You're angry. No, I said, stepping closer. I'm awake. There's a difference. He inhaled sharply. Maybe it was the proximity, maybe it was the storm still clinging to my skin, but his scent deepened, pine and regret and something else, something primal, buried. My wolf perked up. My heart did too, against my better judgment. Go home, he murmured. You don't belong in this world. I met his gaze, unblinking. Then you shouldn't have dragged me into it. And I left him standing there under the sickly fluorescent light, the man who couldn't love me watching me walk away anyway. By the time I got home, the pack house felt different. Not haunted. Just hollow. Like the air had learned the shape of my disappointment and was mimicking it. I went straight to his den. The pink hydrangeas still stood proudly, defiant and absurd. The fairy lights hummed softly against the map wall. For a second I almost laughed. Then I found his note. It wasn't hidden, just left on the desk under the paperweight that had once held my own list.
Calla, you were never the problem. I was. I'll fix it. Don't follow me. D.
I stared at it until the words blurred. Then I poured a drink, sat in his chair, and muttered, He said he needed space. I gave him silence. Maybe this time I'll give him regret. 3 days passed. No Darius. 4. Patrol reports said he'd crossed into neutral territory. 5. Rogue sightings rose near the border. 6. My wolf started pacing again. By the 7th, I stopped pretending patience was noble. I summoned the council, informed them I'd be temporarily assuming alpha duties until our resident guilt enthusiast decides to stop brooding in the wilderness. The warriors stared. Rowan looked resigned. Any questions? I asked sweetly. Yes, Luna, one brave soul said. What should we tell him when he returns? I smiled, bearing just enough fang to make the point. Tell him his Luna finally stopped waiting. That night, the storm returned, thunder cracking through the pines like the world was applauding my rebellion. I stepped outside, barefoot in the mud, letting the rain soak my hair. My wolf rose, electric under my skin, whispering one word: run. So I did. Through the forest, past the border, into the wild. My lungs burned, my pulse sang, my thoughts were a tangle of fury and freedom. For the first time since the wedding, I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about me. And gods, it felt good. By the time I stopped, I was miles from the pack house, standing at the edge of the ridge where the world dropped into mist and pine. Lightning flashed over the valley, then a scent, familiar, sharp, male, Darius. He stepped from the trees like a ghost who hadn't learned he was dead yet, wet, wild, and staring at me like I'd just rewritten his universe. "You shouldn't be here," he said again. I laughed, breathless. "Funny. That's what you told me last time. How's the guilt? Cured yet?" He didn't smile, just took a step closer. "You're shaking." "From rage," I lied. He reached out, slow, cautious. "From the bond," he corrected. "You feel it, don't you?" "It's waking up." My heart skipped, my wolf stirred. "Oh no, 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 no." "You don't get to unseal us now," I hissed. "Not after I redecorated your den and reclaimed my spine." "I don't want to unseal it out of guilt," he said softly. "I want to because I finally understand what I almost lost." Lightning flared behind him, turning his eyes to liquid silver. And despite everything, the lies, the rumors, the silence, I felt the pull, the thread of fate tightening like it had been waiting for this exact, painful, perfect moment. But I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. So I turned, chin high, and said, "If you want to claim me, Darius Vale, you'll have to earn it. Starting with a new paint job. Because pink stays." He blinked, then, unbelievably, laughed, a real one, and the sound cracked something open inside both of us. "Would you forgive your mate if the reason he broke your heart wasn't betrayal, but grief? Or would you walk away anyway? Tell me in the comments. What would you have done if you were Calla?" Chapter 4. I never thought power would fit me like silk, but standing at the head of the council table, soaked in moonlight and stubbornness, I realized it did. For the first time, I wasn't the Luna who soothed tempers and filled silences with smiles. I was the Luna who gave orders, and people listened. The warriors sat straighter, the elders stopped whispering, even the walls seemed to wait for my next breath. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't need to. "Until Alpha Darius returns," I said, "I'll be managing patrols, negotiations, and internal affairs. Consider it a temporary promotion, or divine correction." A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the room. I met each gaze, steady, firm, polite, dangerous. "Any objections?" I asked. Silence. Beautiful, obedient silence. "Good," I said, turning to Rowan. "You have the updated rogue maps. Split the patrols evenly. I want the borders sealed tighter than Darius's emotional availability." A few Omegas snorted into their coffee. Rowan tried not to grin. "Yes, Luna," he said. "But—" I raised an eyebrow. "But what?" He hesitated. "You've been pushing hard since the Alpha left. When was the last time you slept?" I looked at him over the rim of my mug. "Don't beta me, Rowan. I've been the one keeping this pack together since before the vows." He sighed. "And I'm saying you don't have to prove it every hour." "Oh, but I do," I said lightly. "If I slow down, I might remember that my marriage is a political stunt wrapped in heartbreak." He leaned forward, eyes searching mine. "You don't have to turn your pain into policy, Calla." "I'm multitasking," I said sweetly. "Now go run the patrols before I assign you to flower duty." When the meeting ended, I stayed behind, tracing the map on the wall, dark rivers of ink marking borders, territories, and all the fragile lines we called peace. The fairy lights from my petty redecorating twinkled faintly across the parchment, softening the edges. My wolf stirred again. She liked the sound of command. So did I. But underneath that new confidence, a tremor lingered. The bond. Still faint, still unsealed, but pulsing. Awake. I pressed my fingers to my wrist, where his mark would have been if we'd ever finished the ceremony. The skin was warm. Alive. No, he wasn't gone. He was close. That should have comforted me. It didn't. I found Rowan on the balcony an hour later, watching the forest shift under the full moon. He was all calm posture and repressed stress. The beta way. "You're brooding," I said, joining him. "That's Darius's job." "You're supposed to be the reasonable one." He gave a quiet laugh. "Someone has to keep you both alive." "Flattering," I said. "You sound like a man preparing to scold me." He didn't deny it. "You followed him to the clinic, didn't you?" "Of course I did," I shrugged. "Curiosity is my fatal flaw. That and excellent taste in enemies, Calla." His tone sharpened. "You can't keep chasing him. Whatever ghosts he's fighting, they're not yours." "Oh, I know," I said. "I just like to haunt the haunted." He rubbed his temples. "You're impossible." "I prefer unpredictable." Rowan turned then, serious. "He didn't tell you everything." Something in his tone made the air thinner. "I assumed," I said carefully. "That's his love language, omission." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "That woman, Ava. The one you saw. She's not just someone who saved him. She was his source." "His what?" "His contact. During the old raids, she fed him intel from the human world. Smuggling routes, mercenary locations, safe houses. Without her, half our pack would have died. But it came at a cost," I frowned. "What cost?" "She was exposed. Tortured, silvered. She almost died trying to keep him safe. He's been carrying that guilt ever since I exhaled, slow. And he married me to pay off the emotional debt." Rowan's eyes softened. "No, he married you because he needed the alliance, but he stayed away because he thought he didn't deserve peace. Or you, that landed like a blade, quiet, precise, perfectly cruel." "So he punishes himself," I said, "and I get to be collateral therapy." "He loves you, Calla," Rowan said softly. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "He can't even touch me, Rowan. He's afraid that if he does, he'll burn you with the same guilt." "Well," I said, brushing imaginary dust from my dress, "he's doing a stellar job suffocating me instead." Thunder rolled across the valley again, low and distant, like an old warning. Rowan's expression shifted. "The rogues are moving closer. We've intercepted 3 attacks in as many days. Someone's driving them. Who?" He hesitated. "We think Nightfall's remnants, the ones who never accepted your union." My stomach dropped. "They're blaming me for the treaty? They're blaming Darius for weakness. But yes, they'll use you to hurt him." I clenched my fists, anger flashing cold and clean through my chest. "Then let them try." "Calla—" "No," I cut him off. "I'm done being the Luna who waits at home while the men handle the war. I've spent 6 weeks in silence, Rowan. If the rogues want to test Silverpine, they'll get me instead." He studied me for a long moment. "You sound like him." "Good," I said. "Maybe the pack will finally listen." Later that night, I sat at the window of the Alpha's office, my office now, staring at the rain-beaded glass. My reflection looked different, stronger, wilder, lonelier. The bond pulsed again. A faint echo of pain, not mine, his. "Darius," I whispered into the dark, "where are you?" The wind didn't answer, but my wolf did, tail twitching, eyes glowing faint gold in my mind's mirror. "He's coming back." I closed my eyes. "He'd better." I still have paint samples to show him. By dawn, the storm had passed. I was halfway through reorganizing the war room when a low growl rumbled through the floorboards. Deep, primal, familiar. Not from the walls, from outside. Rowan burst through the door. "Luna, you need to see this." I followed him to the balcony, heart pounding. The clearing below was filled with warriors, weapons raised, eyes trained on the tree line. And then, out of the fog, Darius emerged, bleeding, carrying something, someone, in his arms. Ava. Her face was pale, unmoving. Silver burns across her neck. Gasps echoed through the ranks. Rowan swore. I gripped the railing, throat dry. Darius's gaze found mine immediately, as if the bond had pulled a string between us. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Every inch of his body screamed one thing. I failed. And the truth hit me like a blade of its own. Whatever storm he'd been running from, it had finally found him. And now it was coming for all of us. Chapter 5. The rain hadn't stopped. It just learned how to whisper. Every drop seemed to carry his name. Darius, Darius, Darius. By the time he crossed the courtyard, soaked and staggering, the pack had gone silent. The Alpha was back, bloodied, haunted, and holding a dying woman in his arms. Ava. Her skin was ashen, her breath barely there. The metallic stench of silver filled the air. I ran before I could think. Instinct, not forgiveness. My wolf pushed forward hard enough to blur my vision. "Get her to the infirmary!" Darius obeyed without a word, not because I was Luna, because he had no fight left in him. Inside, the healers moved fast. Silver burns meant agony, poison that chewed through veins like fire. I'd seen it before, I'd felt it once, but never this bad. Ava's pulse flickered like a candle. The lead healer, Miriam, barked orders. "Boil water, bring wolfsbane salve, and someone get the Alpha out of my way." Darius didn't move. He was drenched, dirt streaked across his face, knuckles raw. "She was ambushed," he rasped. "They wanted information about the pack." "Save it," I snapped. "You can give us your tragic war report later. Right now, you're bleeding all over my floor." His head jerked up at my tone. "Calla." "No," I said, stepping between him and the healer's table. "You don't get to break yourself open and expect me to sweep up the pieces. Sit down before I chain you to the bed." His lips twitched. Not quite amusement, not quite surrender. Then he collapsed, literally, straight down. I barely caught him before he hit the floor. His body was hot. Too hot. And under my hands, I felt it. Silver burns. Not as deep as hers, but enough to scorch his skin through his clothes. "Oh, you idiot," I muttered, lowering him onto a cot. "Playing hero again." Rowan rushed in, taking one look and swearing under his breath. "He's been fighting them alone." Of course he had. The great Alpha Vale, savior complex with a side of death wish. "Help me get his shirt off," I said. "And no, I don't care how that sounds." Rowan smirked faintly, but obeyed. The shirt peeled away, revealing angry red burns across Darius's chest and shoulders, threaded with veins of black. Silver poison, slow-moving but lethal. Miriam handed me a bowl of salve and a cloth. "He needs someone to draw the toxin out. Your bond might help if you're willing." My stomach clenched. "Our bond isn't sealed." "Then seal it," Miriam said simply, as if that was as easy as tying a shoe. I stared at his face, too pale, too still. The same man who'd once looked at me like I was a duty. Now he looked like a ghost halfway to gone. My wolf pressed against the inside of my chest, restless and wild. "He's ours," she growled. "Fix him." I dipped the cloth into the salve, my hands shaking. "Fine," I whispered, "but if he dies after all this emotional labor, I'm haunting him." The first touch burned. Not his skin, mine. The bond flared like a spark that had been waiting for permission to exist. A pulse of heat shot through my veins, up my arm, into the mark that never sealed. And then I saw it. Flashes. Memories. Not mine. His. Darius kneeling in blood and fire, Ava screaming his name, the silver bullet glinting as it hit her. The way he'd carried her for miles. The guilt carved into him deeper than the wound itself. I gasped and almost tore my hand away, but his fingers closed around my wrist. "Don't," he rasped, eyes fluttering open. You're supposed to be unconscious, I said. Couldn't miss the part where you're saving me. Don't get sentimental, I warned, pressing the cloth harder. I'm only doing this because murder's illegal. He huffed a laugh that turned into a groan. You always were impossible. And you always were emotionally unavailable with a martyr complex. We all have flaws. The black veins under his skin began to fade, the poison pulling free. His grip on my wrist tightened, the mark between us burning, a low hum that grew louder, fuller, alive. The bond was trying to seal itself. No, I whispered. Not like this. Not while you're delirious, but my wolf didn't care about timing. She wanted connection, claim, truth. When the last of the silver drained, he fell back, breathing easier. The burns faded to faint scars. I pulled my hand away, heart hammering. Miriam placed a hand on my shoulder. You pulled him back. The bond did the rest. I didn't mean to, I said quietly. Fate rarely asks permission. Hours later, when the infirmary cleared and Ava slept in the next bed over, I sat beside him, watching, waiting. His chest rose and fell, steady now. His face looked younger, less carved in guilt. My fingers brushed the faint glow where the bond mark shimmered at the edge of his collarbone. Silver and gold, intertwined, unfinished but alive. I sighed. You couldn't just talk, could you? No, you had to almost die to make me care again. His eyes opened slowly, lazy and exhausted. Worked, didn't it? I glared. Barely. He smiled, a real one this time, soft human. You were always stronger than I deserved. Don't romanticize survival, I said, rising. It's not cute. Calla. What? Thank you. I paused at the door. You don't thank your mate. You make it up to her. He tilted his head. How? I smirked. Start by not dying. Then we'll work on communication and paint colors. He groaned. Not the pink. Especially the pink. By morning the rain had stopped, but the world smelled like aftermath. Damp, clean, alive. I found Rowan outside watching the horizon. How bad is it? I asked. Worse than we thought, he said. The rogues weren't alone. Someone's organizing them, and it's not just Nightfall rebels anymore. My stomach dropped. Then who? He looked at me grimly. Ava wasn't just a victim. She was the bait. The words hit like thunder. You're saying she was working both sides. The rogues knew about the treaty. They wanted Darius alive, to break him. And now that the bond between you two is waking, they'll come for me next, I finished. Rowan nodded. They already are. That night I sat at Darius's bedside again, listening to the wind howl against the windows. He stirred, murmuring something in his sleep. My wolf paced restlessly beneath my skin, sensing what came next. The bond glowed faintly between us, pulsing like a heartbeat shared. I whispered to the quiet, If you think I'll sit pretty while your ghosts come knocking, you picked the wrong Luna. I reached for my notebook, the one that started it all, and flipped to a new page. 10 Ways to Survive a War. You didn't start. 1. Stop waiting for permission. 2. Arm yourself with charm and sharp objects. 3. Protect the pack, even from its alpha. 4. Never underestimate gossip. 5. Trust your wolf. 6. Trust yourself more. 7. Don't run from love. Make it run to catch you. 8. Keep the pink pillows, always. 9. Forgive slowly. 10. Bite back when fate bites first. I smiled, closed the book, and turned to him. Sleep well, Darius. Tomorrow we start fighting together. Or not at all outside. Thunder rolled again. Not a warning this time. A promise. Chapter 6. If heartbreak had a sound, it would be steel meeting bone under a red moon. Because that's how the night began. Blades ringing, wolves howling, and the air splitting open with fury. By the time I reached the training field, the rogues had already breached the southern gate. Shadows moved like smoke between the pines. their eyes feral and bright. I didn't hesitate. I wasn't the Luna who smiled through disappointment anymore. I was the Luna who led the fight. "Rowan, get the eastern flank," I shouted, "and somebody keep the pups in the shelter, and if one more child trips over my gown, I swear I'll—" A snarl cut me off. I turned, dagger ready. And there he was. Darius. Alive. Barely. But back, and carrying the weight of every sin and scar he'd ever earned. His eyes met mine across the chaos. The bond between us, raw and pulsing, snapped tight. Not complete, not yet, but close enough that I could feel his heartbeat pounding against my ribs. "Calla!" he yelled, voice rough and desperate. "Behind you!" I spun, sinking my blade into the throat of a rogue mid-leap. He went down, thrashing in the mud. I didn't even flinch. I'd learned how to kill my mercy. When I looked up again, Darius was beside me, blood streaking his jaw. He smelled like smoke and adrenaline, and the faint promise of regret. "Fancy seeing you on the front line," I said, panting. He smirked, even through the carnage. "Thought you liked surprises." "Only the gift-wrapped kind," I shot back, kicking a rogue square in the chest. "This one needs a refund." The fight blurred into muscle and instinct. Wolves lunged, claws flashed, the scent of blood mixed with the earth. And then I saw her. Ava, standing on the ridge, flanked by two rogues. Alive, pale, eyes like glass. "Darius!" I yelled. "She's here." He froze, disbelief cutting through battle rage. "That's impossible." "Oh, I'm so sorry. Did you think your guilt project died quietly?" But as soon as I said it, I knew something was wrong. Her movements weren't her own. Her eyes glowed faintly red, unnatural, controlled. "Someone's using her," Rowan shouted, voice echoing through the field. "She's a conduit." Before I could process it, she raised her hand, and the air crackled. A burst of silver fire ripped through the clearing, sending wolves flying. Pain tore across my chest. My knees buckled. The bond screamed. Darius was beside me in a second, pulling me against him. "Calla, look at me!" "I'd rather look at anyone else right now," I gritted out, clutching my side. "What is that?" "Witchcraft," he said, voice low. "The rogues found someone to weaponize the poison in her blood." "Great," I hissed. "So your ex is literally trying to kill us." Closure achieved. He almost laughed. Almost. Another blast, this one closer. I shoved him aside, taking the hit on my arm. Pain, white-hot, searing through flesh and nerve. He grabbed me, furious. "Why did you do that?" "Because I'm not losing you," I snapped. "Not again." Our eyes locked. The world narrowed to that moment. The bond between us flared like wildfire, light pouring from the mark that had waited too long to wake. "You can't stop it," he whispered. "I'm not trying to," I breathed. "For once, stop thinking. Feel it." And then, everything changed. The mark burned gold and silver. My wolf surged forward, meeting his in a rush of heat and power. For a heartbeat, I wasn't just Calla. I was us, two souls colliding, sealing, completing. Our bond snapped into place. A visceral, electric tether. The ache that had haunted me since the wedding vanished, replaced by something fierce and whole. I could feel him. Every thought, every breath, every shred of devotion he'd been too proud to say. He loved me. He always had. He just never believed he was allowed to. I smiled through the chaos. "Took you long enough." He grinned, blood-streaked and wild. "You were worth the fight." "Then prove it," I said, stepping forward. Together we moved. When the next surge came, we didn't dodge. We countered. His wolf roared through him, power slamming into hers like a breaking storm. My magic flowed into his, amplifying, healing, consuming. The air exploded with light. Ava screamed, not human, not herself, and then she fell, the glow extinguishing as if snuffed by fate itself. Silence followed, only the sound of rain returning, soft and steady. I stood there, chest heaving, my arms scorched but alive. Darius caught me before I could fall. "She's gone," he said quietly. I nodded, tears stinging. "So is the guilt." He rested his forehead against mine. "I'm sorry, Calla. For every moment I made you doubt your worth." "You didn't make me doubt it," I whispered. "You just made me prove it." He smiled faintly. "And you did." As dawn broke, the pack gathered around the smoldering ruins of the battlefield. Rogues fled, the danger passed. For now. Rowan limped toward us, bruised but grinning. "Well, Luna, that was subtle." "Thanks," I said dryly. "I do enjoy a low-key apocalypse." He laughed, shaking his head. "You two just saved half the territory, you realize that, right?" I looked at Darius. "Actually, we just stopped running from each other." The rest was collateral damage. Later, when the field was quiet and the world smelled like rain and renewal, Darius took my hand. His thumb brushed over the mark glowing faintly between us. "So, we're sealed now," he said. "Congratulations," I said. "You're officially stuck with me." He chuckled softly. "And the pink den?" "Oh, that stays," I smirked. "It's tradition now." He leaned closer, voice low. "You know, I never actually hated it." "Don't lie to me, Alpha." "I'm not," he said. "It reminded me that you were here. That you refused to disappear." My throat tightened. "I never would have, Darius. Even when you tried to make me, he kissed me then. Not desperate, not apologetic. Just real. And for the first time, it didn't hurt. That night, I sat by the window again, watching the moon rise clean and bright. The storm had finally passed. The silence between us was no longer empty. It was peace. I pulled out my notebook, the same one I started when everything fell apart, and wrote a new title, 10 Ways to Begin Again. 1. Don't wait for love to fix you. Fix yourself first. 2. Forgive, not to forget, but to rest. 3. Laugh in the ruins. 4. Kiss under clean skies. 5. Keep one pink pillow cont for power. 6. Share command, not control. 7. Don't lose your voice for his silence. 8. Heal the pack by healing yourself. 9. Let the past rest. 10. Choose him, but always choose you too. I set the notebook down, smiling as his arms wrapped around me from behind. "You're writing again," he murmured. "Always," I said. "Someone has to document the mess you make." He laughed against my neck. "And what's this chapter called?" I smiled. "The Unsealed Luna." Epilogue. 6 moons later, the world smelled different. Not of war, not of guilt, but of peace. The valley had healed. The pines whispered again, the rivers sang, and the pack finally laughed without watching the tree line. Even the den, yes, still partially pink, seemed to glow in the morning light like it had forgiven us too. I stood on the balcony of the pack house, the one that used to feel too big, too empty, and pressed a hand to my stomach. The bump was still small, but undeniable, life pulsing beneath my palm. My wolf purred inside me. "Our future," she said softly. "Talking to yourself again?" came the deep, teasing voice I'd learned to love and occasionally threaten. Darius stepped up behind me, shirt unbuttoned just enough to make my morning difficult, hair still damp from his run. His arm slipped around me, warm and solid. "You're glowing, Luna." I smiled, leaning back against him. "That's just the hormones." Or power," he murmured against my ear. "Careful," I said, grinning. "Compliment me too much and I might start redecorating the war room." He groaned softly. "Anything but more pink." "Relax," I said. "It's lavender season." The truth was, we'd rebuilt more than the pack. We'd rebuilt us. The first few weeks after the battle were awkward, quiet, and full of unspoken things. But slowly, we found rhythm. Morning patrols together, dinners where we actually talked, nights where words weren't needed at all. He started smiling more. I started sleeping again. And every time he reached for me, I felt the bond hum. Steady, strong, finally ours. Even Rowan stopped flinching whenever we touched in public. Progress. That afternoon, the council gathered in the courtyard to celebrate the opening of the new infirmary, rebuilt from the wreckage of the battle. I stood beside Darius as he cut the ribbon with his usual alpha precision and complete lack of enthusiasm for public speaking. Then he gestured for me to step forward. "Your Luna led this reconstruction," he announced. "She reminded us what strength really looks like." Applause rose around us, warm and genuine. I took the mic, or the wolf equivalent of one, which was just yelling confidently with good posture. "Thank you," I said. "I didn't rebuild this place alone. Every hand here, every howl, every stubborn heart, we did it together." I paused, catching Darius's gaze. When I first came to Silver Pine, I thought being Luna meant smiling through pain and staying quiet for peace. I was wrong. A true Luna doesn't just heal wounds. She makes sure they don't reopen. The crowd cheered, and I felt it. That pulse of belonging I'd chased my whole life. Later, after the feast and far too many honeycakes, I curled up in the den with my notebook. The same one that started this entire journey. The first page was still there. 10 ways to survive a loveless mating. The next, 10 ways to love again. And now, the last. 10 ways to lead with love. 1. Lead like you'd fight for yourself, because you did. 2. Speak first. Apologize never for strength. 3. Laugh when it rains, cry when it matters. 4. Never let fear write your vows. 5. Forgive, but don't forget the lesson. 6. Keep a beta who tells you when your eyeliner smudges before battle. Thanks, Rowan. 7. Make your home reflect your chaos. Pink, lavender, whatever works. 8. Choose honesty over pride, even when it hurts. 9. Let your mate see you bleed, and let him bandage you after. 10. Love isn't about sealing bonds, it's about keeping them alive. I closed the notebook and smiled. Guess we're finally done making lists. Darius looked up from across the room, where he was sketching patrol grids. Never. You'll make one tomorrow about how to parent an alpha pup, I rolled my eyes. Number 1, don't let him borrow your sense of humor. He crossed the room, crouched beside me, and pressed a kiss to my belly. Number 2, he murmured, teach them to find their mate, and fight for her, even if it takes a war. My throat tightened. You really have a thing for dramatics. Only when it comes to you. The moon rose high, full and gentle, silver light spilling through the den windows. My wolf stretched, content. His wolf brushed against mine, warm, protective, proud. I turned in his arms, resting my forehead against his. We did it, I whispered. He smiled. No, you did it. I just followed the pink lights, I laughed, swatting his chest. You're never living that down. Wouldn't dream of it. Outside, the pack howled, a song of victory, of home, of something that finally felt like peace. For the first time in forever, it wasn't just the sound of loyalty. It was the sound of love. If you believe love can rise from ruin, hit subscribe, because even an unsealed Luna deserves her forever. And if you'd fight for your own peace, share this with your pack. The moon doesn't always bless you with perfection. Sometimes, it gives you purpose.